Hi, I'm about to share with you the 5 most common mistakes that IELTS speaking students make and how you can avoid them by using my speaking success system. Let's do it. Hello, it's Keith from English Speaking Success and the website, the Keith Speaking Academy. Now, I'm very excited. Well, I'm always excited, right? But today I'm excited because more and more students on my IELTS Speaking Gold course are getting good results in the IELTS Speaking Test. And I think part of that, a key part of their success is not only the breakout rooms where they practice speaking with students all over the world, it's the speaking success system. It's a system that underpins the whole course. So in this video, I'm going to show you the system, the 4-step system that students who are currently at Band 5 and Band 6, they're using in the course to help them succeed in the IELTS test. With this system, I've helped, well, tens of thousands of students worldwide succeed in the IELTS speaking test. Now I have over 3 million subscribers on my YouTube channel. I think I know exactly what it takes to get a good score in the IELTS speaking test. And what's more, I love motivating students like you to continue studying, to improve their fluency, and to get the results that you want. And from all of that experience, here is the key thing I've learned. That with the right study system and motivation, you too can succeed. Anybody can. I think so many students drop out, they give up, throw in the towel because they've been left to struggle on their own. But you can do it differently. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 5 common mistakes students make in IELTS speaking, how to avoid them. I'll show you the 4-step system of my speaking success system. And then we'll do some practice together so you can really feel it and know how it works. And also, I'll give you the PDF of this lesson. You can click on the link down below and just go and pick that up. Great. Sound good? Let's start. Okay, the first mistake that students make that stops them succeeding is writing and reading their answers aloud. Now, this is really common, but it's a really bad study technique. I know a lot of teachers may encourage students, they'll give them the question, encourage them to write down their answer, and then practice reciting it. But it doesn't work. First of all, right, when you're in the real test, you can't do that. Excuse me, Mr. Examiner, just one moment, just let me write this down. Wait. Okay. Right, you can't do that. And in real life, no, you can't write down your answer. Oh, nice to meet you. How are you? Where am I from? Just a minute. No, come on. It doesn't work, right? Now, sure, if you get a question, you can maybe write down an idea or a keyword or collocations, but don't write out the whole answer. Because in the test, you haven't got anything to read, so your answer's up here, and you'll forget, you'll make mistakes, it'll sound memorized, you'll crash. Okay. The truth is, to improve your speaking, you need to practice speaking. So much better to listen to the question and practice speaking out your answer. I'm going to show you a really good technique to do this a little bit later, but let's lead on. It's a nice segue into mistake number 2. Okay, mistake number 2, following number 1, is students think, I should memorize my answers. Memorize answers to all possible questions, and then I'll be safe. There are many problems with this. The smallest problem is there are so many questions, it's impossible to memorize so many. The other problem, of course, is when you come into the test, if you get nervous, if you forget a part of your answer, you'll block, you'll freeze, and you'll get tongue-tied. You can't speak, and then you crash. Okay. Now, I understand why students memorize. It gives them a sense of security, and they've crafted a beautiful, perfect answer, which should get them a band 9. No, it's not about writing, it's about speaking. The skill is not crafting a perfect answer. The skill is flexibility when you speak. That's what you need. I think one of the reasons so many students memorize answers is because it's what we're taught in primary school and secondary school, right? That's what teachers teach us. And that comes down to many things. One reason is, though our teachers, that's how they were taught, rote memorization. So they do the same. And also, if you're teaching 40, 50 kids in a classroom, it's pretty hard to teach speaking. It's much easier to do rote learning, right? It makes sense. But times have changed. Teachers now are, integrating communicative language methodologies. They've got lots of technology that they can use and show students to use so they can practice speaking more. I think the problem with rote learning is summed up very well by this student who says, I learn English by rote since I was a high school student. It makes me struggle to speak well. I note vocabulary every day. I do not know how to put it in a sentence. This is a student commented on one of my YouTube videos, and I thought, yes, I understand exactly. That's a problem. So what do you do instead? Don't memorize the whole answer. Memorize chunks, phrases, small chunks of language, right? Maybe that's a grammar chunk. I should have, I could have, I would have. Maybe it's an idiom or a phrasal verb or a vocabulary chunk, but just 2 or 3 words, these chunks of language. Memorize those rather than the whole language. And then when you're speaking, your focus is on answering questions flexibly, improvising, thinking on your feet. That's the skill you need to develop, not your memory skill. Okay, I'll show you how to do this in a moment in my speaking success system. But now let's go on to number 3. Mistake number 3 is using formal English. Some students do think they should use formal English in IELTS. Sometimes I go onto Facebook. I'm not a big fan of Facebook. Sorry, Mark, but it's true. But I went on one time and I saw students asking in an IELTS forum, say, can I use gonna, wanna, shoulda? Can I say in the test? Can I say cause instead of because? And students answering say, no, you must not speak like that in the IELTS speaking test because IELTS is a test of formal English. Oh dear. Now, IELTS, you have a general English module and an academic English module. And sure enough, in the reading and the writing, it's formal English. But in IELTS speaking, which is the same for both modules, IELTS speaking is a test of conversational English. You don't learn conversational English by reading newspapers and literature and academic documents. Those are useful for different skills, but if you want to learn conversational English, you listen to conversations. You take part in conversations. It's as simple as that. Oh, you're still here. By the way, if you're still wondering, can you use gonna, wanna, cause, Yes, you should use those in your IELTS speaking test. Next mistake, number 4. Let's have a look. Mistake number 4, learning lists of vocabulary. Now, word lists are not bad in themselves. Sometimes they can be helpful. I sometimes have used word lists, right? But sometimes students are told, listen, learn this list of vocabulary, 3,000 words for IELTS, in alphabetical order. The problem here is it doesn't give you any context. So you don't know how to use the word. So when you come to speaking, you can't use the word correctly or accurately. And in the test, even less. So what do you do instead? Learn vocabulary by topic. This will give you a context. Okay, so if you're learning, take a topic of clothes, for example, then learn the vocabulary connected to the topic of clothes. For every topic, there's going to be subtopics, right? You'll have a clothes and then clothes for work, fashion clothes, shopping for clothes, different subtopics. And then within the subtopic, you're going to have vocabulary connected to that topic. Shopping for clothes, things like put, try on, fitting room, the right size. And so you're connecting the vocabulary to the subtopic, and it's helping you remember. This is how our brain works. It's like a computer. You've got this folders connected to a folder, connected to a folder. It's how we store information and how we recall information. You can imagine it looks like a mind map. And in fact, mind maps are great ways to do this, right? You've got clothes, shopping for clothes. And then in each folder, you have your vocabulary in a context, a little phrase or a context. The context, when you're studying by topic, it could be you're listening to a podcast, you're watching a video, or you're reading or listening to a story. It gives you a wider context, so you know when to use the word. And then in the sentence, you know how to use the word. You can see the grammar of the word, if you like. Okay? Great. I'm going to talk about a bit more about this when we look at the speaking success system in a moment. For now, let's go to mistake number 5. Okay, mistake number 5, and you may have heard this down the gym. No pain, no gain. So a lot of materials, approaches, even teachers we have had take this approach that learning English is no pain, no gain. You must suffer. You must work hard. You must study really long hours until you've got everything in your head. Stuff this knowledge into your head. That's not how language learning works. I remember I once had some business students. When we started the course, they said, Keith, we don't mind if we suffer. Even if we have to sit down every evening for hours learning the grammar, we're ready to go. And I thought, okay. And I explained it's not necessary. Really? Really? We know, right? I mean, it creates a negative feeling and it adds stress. We know from research, I mean, Krashen's affective filter, that if you remove stress, the learning is deeper. When you're relaxed and you're having fun and you're focused on the moment, your learning is deeper. All you have to do is enjoy your learning. And enjoying your learning is actually a choice. Some people think it's like happiness. People think, well, it depends on the weather if I'm happy. No, it's a choice. And enjoying your studying is also a choice. Of course, it can help if you've got interesting materials, an engaging teacher, a lovely way of learning. But it is a choice to do that and to enjoy your learning. So, no pain, no gain? No. Enjoy your learning? Yes. So, do you make these mistakes too? Listen, if you do, no worries, right? At least now you know what to be careful with and you can start learning English in a better way. So now we've seen the mistakes, let me just summarize what you can do instead. Okay? So you're asking me, right, Keith, so if I don't write the answer, I don't memorize it, I don't recite the answer, how do I practice? Okay. Good question. Students who've got a band 7 or above are usually doing something different. They're studying in a different way. They know that writing, memorizing, and reciting has limited success for speaking, right? It doesn't give you the fluency and the flexibility you need to get a band 7 or 8. It's not just about knowledge, it's about fluency and flexibility. So how do you build that up? Well, those students are doing something different, and now you can do that too. I must say, right, there are different ways to study. This is not the only way to study. There are different ways you can do it. But I want to share with you the way that I teach and the way that I show students in my Gold course how to study with the Speaking Success system to help them get the results they want, be it a band 7 or a band 8. It's a system I've built up over the years that builds up your fluency and flexibility. Okay, here it is, step by step, the 4 steps of the Speaking Success system. Okay, there are 4 steps. Number 1, try. Number 2, discover. Number 3, practice. Number 4, build. Number 1, try. This is where you take a question from IELTS Speaking that might appear on the exam and try to give a spontaneous answer. Spontaneous means not prepared. So maybe I ask you, do you often use social media? And you speak out your answer. And you might say, yes, I use Facebook. And then you can discover where the gaps are, where your weaknesses are. Maybe you don't know the vocabulary to talk about social media. How do you say that, And you need to discover, to scroll, right? By trying to answer spontaneously, you can discover the gaps and then you can start to study. Number 2, discover. Discover is where you watch or listen to a proficient or a native speaker answering the same question. And by listening to the answer, you can discover the natural spoken English you need to answer this question. And also it's great because you discover the language or the vocabulary in context. You discover the chunks, you discover how the grammar may change the vocabulary, and you can make a note of this new language or the language you want to learn. The goal is not to memorize the answer. The goal is to memorize the chunks, the little phrases or the collocations that can help you later create a better answer. Okay, I'll tell you more about chunks in a future video coming soon. Number 3, practice. In the practice step, you practice repeating those chunks that you've learned. But not just repeating, you practice using them in different ways. Maybe changing some words, using synonyms, antonyms, changing the tense, substitution. You can even use mind maps to help you do that. But you're practicing the chunks. And then you go back to the original question and you answer it again, but try to use something new that you've just learned to improve your answer a bit. Step by step, this helps you build up your vocabulary and improve your answers. Then step 4 is build. And this is the step most students forget and never do. And this is where you build the flexibility and the fluency that you really need for a band 7 and band 8. What you do is you go back to that original question and you answer it in a different way. And then again, in another different way. And then again, in a different way. So rather than memorizing and repeating the same answer every time, which is making you stuck, you're answering differently each time. Just small changes, building your flexibility. And when you have that flexibility, you'll be so much more confident. The whole process is repeated again and again and again for different questions, different topics. And this is what I use throughout the IELTS Speaking Gold course. It's not overnight success, right? But it's fun, it's engaging, and it builds up your skill set over time. Maybe a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months, depending on your goal. Most people don't know this. They don't know this system of study. But now you do. So there you have it, the 4-step speaking success system. 1, try. 2, discover. 3, practice. 4, build. And anybody who uses it can succeed in the IELTS speaking test. So now go ahead and succeed, my friend. Don't take my word for it. Have a look what some of my students on the Gold course are saying. Now, you might think, okay, I understand the theory, I can see how it works, but maybe you need some more examples to really grasp it and feel the system, right? Well, I'm going to show you that in next week's video. We'll be looking at specifically how this works so you can get real examples and understand and feel the method. And then you can practice it more and more on your own, right? It's actually really easy to do, but I'll show you that in the next video. In the meantime, you can download the PDF from today's lesson. Just click on the link down below. And if you are interested in the IELTS Speaking Gold course, also check it out in the link below. And with that, I bid you good day. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, do remember to subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to see future videos like next week's video. And that's it. Again, thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.